Joining us tonight at Albright. I know it's probably been a busy day. There's been lots of kind of International Women's Week stuff going on. We are 7 days now instead of just one. I think it goes without saying that everybody here absolutely loves fashion, but it doesn't define us. It's just a really small part of who we are as people, even though we always want to look good. As a women's wear brand, Warehouse has a platform, and they wanted to use that to start a conversation and talk about the subjects that really matter to their customers. I Define Me celebrates the inspirational stories of 5 amazing women, challenging, pushing through boundaries. And here are these 5 amazing women here today. Welcome, ladies. Where's your t-shirt? Okay.
Where's your t-shirt?
Well done, mate.
Where's yours?
Friday. Well, I did have it on, but it didn't go with the outfit. I'm not all about the fashion, I promise. We've decided that Bryony's going to drop her surname, and she's now instead. She was Bryony Gordon when she arrived, but she's just Bryony now. So Bryony, she started her. Gordon started her career as a 3 a.m. girl.
Oh God!
Sorry.
I try and hide that.
6 a.m. More 6 a.m. girl. And she wrote about all of her escapades in her book, which was called The Wrong Knickers. You always talk so honestly and openly about everything, which I absolutely love. You kind of skyrocketed to fame because you did the Prince Harry, who's that interview about mental health, which was probably one of the most powerful and honest interviews that we'd seen in a very, very long time. So thank you for that. Harry, vulnerable. And in 2008, she ran the London Marathon in her underwear. Yes. Just a few things that Bryony did. You need to change your Instagram to just @Bryony. We're going to look into that. Get your manager on that. Okay. Lauren Mahon. We have to sing her surname. Girl versus cancer. You were diagnosed with cancer in 2016, and you were in your early 30s, and you didn't feel like you had a support network or a community, so you just made one.
I did. I just made it myself. I was like, oh no, I'll just give that a go.
And very happy to say that you are now living cancer-free.
Yes. Thank you very much.
And you've raised over £32,000 selling your t-shirts. Titties.
Yay.
Excellent. And obviously, we all know and love you as well from your amazing Radio 5 podcast, You, Me and the Big C.
Deborah James is also in the room. Have a little wave, Deb.
Right at the back. We didn't get front row seats.
She has. There's a seat there. Listen, no, don't feel sorry for her because she's late for everything.
Oh, late. Natalie Lee, amazing blogger. You were a former midwife.
I was.
Help me, please.
No, I'm not even talking about that. You get stuck.
Now a full-time blogger who uses your amazing platform to talk about diversity, body confidence, and all things all women. I really would like a little bit of help later. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm Googling, like, what do you do with a baby earlier? True story. Obviously on private browser, because I can't have anyone going through any of that kind of stuff. And you aim to inspire women. You create uniqueness, and you talk about people's bodies, but you also share struggles as well, which is just as important. Thank you so much for joining us on the panel. Yay! Oh, and we also have to talk about your hashtag Finger Friday.
Friday Finger.
Friday Finger, not Finger Friday. That is different hashtag.
I mean, we can change it if you want. I'm all up for that
Is it Friday Finger?
Friday Finger.
Is someone trying to get me into trouble? What is going on? And what is that for people that don't know?
So basically, if there's something that I want to stick my middle finger up to, I will just do that every Friday and have a little rant. And obviously this week is International Women's Week, day, but so today it was, all about the discrimination against women.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. Amazing, Esme Young, thank you so much. We all recognise you, of course, from The Great British Stone Bee, which is out at the moment on BBC number 2. And one thing that I love about you is that you created I don't know if you all know this, the famous Bridget Jones bunny outfit. How amazing is that? Probably one of the most iconic costumes of all time. You are the original multi-hyphenate. You are still an amazing lecturer at Central St Martin's, and you've taught many British designers, and you still work for Ashish as a pattern cutter.
I do, indeed. And in fact, I taught Ashish, and I work for him.
Thank you so much for joining us. Nafisha Bakker, you have, what's your website called? Amalia, okay. So you started this with your sister in 2016, and it only took 1 year for you to be on the Forbes One to Watch list. Wow. A year. That's amazing. You have become a leading voice in the rise of modest dressing, and you're now consulting for ASOS and for Stylist magazine. That you want to send the message that if you are a Muslim woman, you can be whoever you want to be. You can create your own narrative and have a really big impact on the world, and you're spreading that message globally. Yes. Globally! So, yes, happy International Women's Day, everybody. Why, Bryony?
Yes.
Got rid of the Gordon. Why is International Women's Day so important to you?
Well, I mean, I think it's always, you get that thing where people go, oh, we don't need International Women's Day anymore. And there's so...
What's that?
You always get, I'm working in journalism as I do, so you always get sort of columnists and opinion, ugh, you know, we don't need it. And I'm like, we totally do. There are so many ways in which women, I was thinking about this. Oh yeah, I was thinking about my daughter's 5, and it's so amazing the stuff that she's growing up with that I didn't have. So the other day we were swimming at the local leisure centre, and I was like, oh, my boobs are too big. And she went, Mummy, your boobs are exactly as they should be. We are all born as we're supposed to be born. I was like, where did you get that from? But like, I was thinking about when I was a kid, and like I walked past a building site the other day, and I remember as a 14-year-old girl, the terror I'd used to feel walking past a building site because men were going to like catcall me or whatever. And that whole thing about how we were, you know, women, it's really interesting because we're about to launch this project at the weekend that some people on this panel know about, and it's like...
And some people don't.
It's a private thing.
It's a private thing. But it involves running in your underwear, as we did last year in the marathon, and me and my friend Jada. But I remember when we did that, we wanted women to kind of, we never see our own body, you know, well, Natalie, you're really brilliant at showing it. But we don't see the textures anymore, and women's bodies are still inevitably thought of as kind of stuff for male consumption. And I was so sick of that. And when we did the marathon, there were a couple of columnists who wrote, oh, taking your clothes off is never a liberating thing for women. And I was like, it is, because my body is not all about like how men can have sex with it. Do you know what I mean? It's like it can run a marathon, it can have a baby, it can do this, it can do that, it can give me alcoholism, it can give me drug addiction, I can fight, but I can fight through all of those things with it. And you know, and I think we still need, I mean, it sounds to me that we still need to sort of have that message nowadays, but we do. And also all around the world, as I'm sure, you know, there are women who just don't have, you know, the liberties that we do. And it was only 100 years ago that some women got the vote. It's not that long ago.
No, not that long ago. And what does it mean to you?
Me?
Yes.
I mean...
No, the woman behind you.
I couldn't tell if you were looking at me or not. Well, I mean, in the UK, so women are still paid on average 17% less than men. And there's still around the world, you know, girls younger than 12 who are being married, forced to marry men. There are, FGM is still a practice in the UK as well. Women and children are being sold as sex slaves and being forced into sex acts with up to 40 men a day. You know, these atrocities are here. This is why we need International Women's Day. You don't get that with men. You know, these are things that are really pertinent to women. So if we don't fight for women, who is going to do it?
Yeah.
We have to do it.
It's like telling the story going forward and the story going back. You know, it's important for us to know, to teach our children the history of International Women's Day as well. Esme, what does I Define Me mean to you, the campaign that you're involved with?
Well, I think the campaign is fantastic, and it's a way for women to believe in themselves, I hope. And for me, my definition of myself is a woman who's always done what I wanted to do. And in a way, part of that is to do with being part of a team, collaborating, supporting, challenging, listening and learning. And, you know, I really feel we all need to support each other. And together we can be really, really strong.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Nafisa, how important is it that everybody is recognised in the fashion industry?
I mean, this has been a conversation that's been cropping up more and more, and you know, we have been seeing more campaigns where they are casting more people from different backgrounds and different walks of life. I think representation is important across all industries, and I think actually in the fashion industry it's where it sometimes gets a bit blurred on what representation looks like, because I think for a long time we've thought representation looks like seeing lots of different faces in the end campaign, but actually I think it's time that we go a lot deeper and have people of colour, minorities, different groups who aren't always heard at the very beginning of processes rather than casted right at the end. Yeah. And I think also there's a lot of imposing on communities, and I think what real representation looks like is working together with communities rather than coming in with preconceived ideas and boxing in a lot of voices and minorities and what we want them to be in a campaign and things like that.
And how do we, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say at St Martin's, we did this project that was about overcoming problems. And it was a team project, so it was, and one of the teams, what they did is they made clothes for disabled people. So they got in touch with this model agency that has disabled people, and it was all about them. And I would like to do more of that, actually, because I think if young people who are beginning in the fashion industry get involved in that stuff, then going on, hopefully, everyone will get involved in it too, you know, in different places.
I think it's kind of going right back to the beginning though, isn't it? And it's to do with education. So
yes,
at
exactly.
School, are we all being taught the same things? Are we all going to the same classes? Are we, you know, why isn't there more diversity in like you say, across the board? Especially, you know, we went to the Stylist Awards and we were talking about this incredible woman that was trying to get diversity into theatre audiences, and it's why isn't there more diversity with the people that are working at the theatre, or the people that are doing the set design or the costume design? Why is that? And it's kind of looking at it right at the beginning, like you say, not just...
It's not just for show.
No, it's not a show. Yeah.
Or ticking a box.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also in terms of like campaigns, and yeah, it's great, let's get one of each person in the campaign, which is what they do often. If like there's hardly ever like 2 black or brown people or 2 people with afro hair in one campaign, which really bugs me, but you know, it's true. What the problem is though is the people who are behind the scenes, the ones who are making the decisions, the ones in the boardroom, the ones who are deciding who should be in a campaign, they need to be more diverse.
But how do we do that?
Well, you employ people, you know, companies, it's been shown that the more diverse a company is, the more successful it is. So if it comes down, they're interested in budgets and money. Yeah. So you know, if it comes down to budget, and if they can actually see the benefits in real money terms, then hopefully they will try to be more diverse.
But then it's teaching all different types of people from all different walks of life that they can, you know, like if you work for a magazine, it's normally because your parents can afford to support you to work for free. But how do we get people to work for magazines who aren't from families who have got...
Also, it's about, like, I recognise that I'm a white middle-class woman. I'm incredibly privileged. And it's like using the platforms you have to support other people. Like about a year and a half ago, I was a judge on a book prize, which I won't name, but and it was a non-fiction thing, and we got down to the last 5 books, and it was between Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race and another book, which is an amazing book, and another book by a male author, which was a great book, but it was kind of very, and I won't name that, but it was very kind of, and there were two, I argued for Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race, and I looked at the panel of judges, and there was one person of colour on it. And 2 of the people said, well, we'd rather this didn't win because it made us feel uncomfortable. And I was like, that's the point. And I was like, it's a brilliant book regardless, but also we can, you know, and eventually it did win, thank God, after a very fierce debate. But I nearly wanted to murder these 2. This man who was like a...
Why is it about them?
Well, this is the other thing. This is, you know, like I'm going to shut up now because I'm a white privileged woman, but it's like we always make it. It's like our discomfort is really nothing compared to fucking centuries of oppression.
But we need allies, you know, we need people to stick up for us. Because if I'm on a campaign and I feel like the token black person on a campaign, I can't say anything because I'm going to be sacked. And as the only person of colour on that campaign, it's up for other people to speak for me, not for me. So that we need, you know, white middle-class women like yourself.
Stephanie Yeboah, who said that she has this great phrase. She said that people of colour are often treated like parsley, like they're just sort of sprinkled on at the end. That's what she says. So she's a person of colour herself, and she's like, she's sick of that as a kind of like, and it is really important that, you know, diversity is, if you don't see yourself, if you're not represented, you feel other.
Yeah. Are there any other particular definitions that you're kind of bored of hearing about?
For me, I mean, in the cancer community, it's quite hard. It's been a different experience because it's like the definition of what a cancer patient is and looks like and behaves like is very clear. Like, you must be green juicing and like you must be really, really well behaved and be like really like sad and oh my God, you're so sick.
Don't drink alcohol.
Don't drink alcohol. And I was like, every 3rd week of my chemo cycle, there I was popping bottles. Like, yes, I can have a couple of drinks. But it's just.
You're going to say something else then.
She was sat with a cigarette with her legs up the dripping. What? Oh.
But it is that feeling. And one thing I've really lately got really annoyed at, and there are men who are in my friendship groups who are no longer in my friendship groups because of the things that they've said. And it's things like I've had a phenomenal couple of years where I've kind of, in terms of my public persona or like I'm known more, it's kind of got big very quickly. And it's been a big process for me to deal with, but also quite exciting because I'm known for something that's really quite special. And I've got men in my friendship groups who will be like, thing is though, like, you know, men, like, it might be a bit intimidating for them and it might be a bit much. And I'm like, I beg your pardon? When did this become about you? I had a male friend this week who, this isn't male bashing, by the way, I love men. Love them. And he messaged me, he's like, congratulations on your award. And I said, thanks, babe. And his message back to me, I was like, thanks so much, it's surreal. And his first message back to me was, make sure you don't change though, stay humble, don't believe the hype.
Oh. Don't believe the hype.
I was like,
I think that shit is already sailed.
I will believe my own hype.
I'd be like that, delete.
Yeah, but it's that whole thing. And sometimes I'm a bit like, I don't like this perception of everything that we do as women has to be desirable to males. Like, I am not made for you to dictate whether I am successful or whether I am pretty or if I'm... I think the way we value beauty, it's not the perception of what beauty is, it's the way we value it and value women is flawed.
But also the other thing about that message that he said is don't believe the hype is as women we are conditioned from birth to think that self-love is a really fucking bad really bad is a really bad thing, like it's arrogant. Do you remember when I was growing up, if you loved yourself that was not cool, right? And self-loathing is sort of the exception. So like we're complimenting each other and I'll be like, oh I like that, and you'll be like, not you, but do you know what I mean, one will be like, oh this whole thing, it shows off my bingo wings and and then you take the compliment and you like trample on it, and then you set fire to it, and then you like spit on it to put the fire out, and you basically turn the compliment into an insult. And part of that, of course, is the kind of, oh, aren't we all normal kind of thing. But it's also like, just like yourself. Do you know what I mean? And as women, we're not allowed to get ideas above our stations. Like, we've always got to check ourselves.
I also think we're pigeonholed a lot more than men are. So we're either virginal or we're a whore, or we're the angry black woman, and you know that really bugs me. And so there's no nuance, there's no in betweens. And
sometimes you're virginal. Sometimes I can be virginal, and sometimes I can be a whore.
Yeah. Or you define you, Bryony. You define you.
Like not. No, but you are right. The nuance is that we're all a bit of everything. In truth. Sorry.
I think
nothing or neither.
That goes back to box ticking, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. For what you going to say?
I think on that topic of who are we to who and what gaze are we looking at, I think often it's extending that to minority women. We are only asked to kind of occupy platforms, especially in the context of International Women's Day, where you'll see loads of lists and you'll see loads of people being celebrated. And there often feels this feeling of, as a minority, you have to be this model minority, and you can't just exist as a quote-unquote normal person. You know, if you're occupying space in any industry, you have to be exceptional to break those barriers, to be against the stereotype and things like that. And I think there's a lot of fatigue around that now as well, because, you know, speaking to our Muslim community and the Muslim women that exist, especially in the last few years, we've seen so many Muslim women being profiled for breaking barriers or breaking stereotypes. And for us, it's we never created those stereotypes in the first place. And then the onus is also put on us to break them, as well as, you know, dismantle them, as well as be exceptional and things like that. And so for me, for International Women's Day, I think a lot of it for me is the messaging of you don't have to be extraordinary in terms of headlines and breaking barriers and things like that, and just being a woman in and of itself is, you know, sometimes a huge task, and sometimes it is that is the fight in itself, beyond being extraordinary.
But I think that's what's so hard about living in today's world is I always have whenever I'm like, like being on the Forbes list, but Forbes 30 under 30, I'm like, I struggle with that, because then you're just trying to, why can't you just exist and be brilliant existing in your own space? Why do you have to be on this list? And why do you have to be under 30 to be on this list? Why do you have to be like...
That's the problem I have with
But you know, like sometimes I meet people that are 12 and they're like, I'm CEO of my own brand. I'm like, well, that's impossible. You can't be. I feel like Bridesmaids when she comes and buys that little locket and she's like, not that I would ever say that to anyone. But you know, and you're like, what is going on? And it's like, we want women to feel empowered so that they can empower other people, and we want women to feel confident. But like you say, sometimes just being you is just a job in itself, isn't it?
It's that also it's that whole thing of women, or we've got to have it all.
Yeah.
We don't think, oh, men, can they have it all? We don't ask that question. Do you know what I mean? And like I don't necessarily want to have it all. Yeah. Like I don't, you know, like sometimes I just want to sit down on the sofa and eat some Deliveroo and watch Netflix.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like power bitch. Do you know what I mean? Like like childcare, running a city. I'm like, can't, like no.
My thing is like, oh, Brian has left the office early to pick up her daughter today. And then they'd be like, your husband would go, oh, isn't he amazing? Oh my God, he went to pick her up for the school play. And it's like, what?
The amount of times you hear men going, oh, I've got to babysit tonight. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. I'm like, oh, are they paying you enough? Like, have you had to take on an extra job to get a bit of extra money? And they're like, oh, no, I'm not babysitting, and I'm looking after my own child. I'm like, oh, well, that's parenting then.
That's being a father.
Yes, yeah.
I feel like women always second guess their decisions, and I think older women older than, your 20s where everyone is super confident, we kind of do struggle with confidence a lot of the time. Why is that?
I think we're conditioned as a society to pitch ourselves against each other, like we compare ourselves to other women, and I think it's this whole thing in your head where someone else's beauty is at detriment to your own, someone else's success is at detriment to your own, and actually there's a saying that I love, and I always try and say it to myself now, like all the time, every time I get a bit of comparison monster in my head. It's like, flowers, don't look at the flower next to them, they just bloom. And it's like, you are literally in your own lane, and if you're constantly comparing yourself to someone else's version of what they want their life, like you said, to have it all, but what does have it all mean? It's individual to each person.
And the purpose of comparison, that us being like pitched against each other the whole time, is because it's a patriarchal thing to keep us down. Because if we're all battling each other, we don't have the energy left at the end of the day to do the most important stuff, which is battle those assholes.
Esme, how have you kind of seen confidence change in women over the years?
Well, when I was young, we opened Swanky Moses and were 4 women. And actually, it was really unusual then. No men involved. That wasn't... But we were really close. We supported each other. And it was fantastic. And of course, we did have a confidence. We put on musicals. We did all sorts of stuff that now I think, oh my God, I got up and sang, and my voice is flat. I had a period when I wouldn't have done any of that. But now I'm 70, I go, I'll do anything. So it's come back, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's true, when you're young, you have a kind of confidence.
Is it fearlessness, do you think?
Yes, a fearlessness.
Is it, because I suppose that you don't have the same consequences as an adult as you do as a child. Like if you don't turn up at school, or if you don't turn up at your Saturday job, it's not like you're going to lose your house, or like we have all, as an adult, you have consequences to your actions.
But I think it's ingrained from a very young age, for women to pipe down and not be too noisy, not show, that they're bigger than life, and to be meek and quite innocent is a trait to be regarded, and that definitely has affected us as women especially, and has led to things like the Imposter Syndrome, which seems to affect far more women than it does men. And I don't think there's anyone in the room probably who could tell me that they haven't felt that Imposter Syndrome. It's a real thing, and it hurts you so badly, and it stops us from fulfilling our true potential.
Do you think that men don't get it though? Maybe they do, and they
I
just
think
don't
they
talk
do.
about it.
I think they do, but not as much or as bad as women do. I don't know though. I'm not a man, so I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's true. A man would walk in and say, "I want a pay rise because I'm brilliant at my job, and I'm going to leave if you don't give me one." And a woman would be like, "How am I doing? Am I doing everything that you want me to? What can I improve on? Never going to leave." No, never say that. But that is.
We're kind of built to be people pleasers, aren't we?
Yeah.
And men don't have that same restriction.
And also that thing of you were absolutely right, taking up too much space.
Yes.
Like I'm just sitting here thinking, oh my God, I'm being too loud. I'm taking up too much of the panel.
We love your loudness.
But it's always that questioning, and also it's that thing as we talk about a lot of women about feeling less than, but I've always felt too much, not enough, too much.
Well, that's a similar thing though,
but it's
isn't
two
it?
sides of the same coin,
yeah,
isn't it?
Absolutely.
How do you challenge your insecurities?
So for me, I didn't start Amalia for ages, just because in my head I had that voice that was saying, oh, you're too young and you don't have enough networks and you don't know how to code, and all these reasons of why I couldn't and that I had to wait a bit and things like that. And there was this moment where I went on a work trip to Spain, and I'd gone to this conference, and at the conference, it was held at a university, and there was this big piece of brown paper on one of the walls, and it had all the reasons why everyone there loved that university. And I was like, oh, that would be a really nice idea to implement in our university, because I was working for the university at the time in London. And then I got back to my hotel room and I was like, oh, but, you know, how would I stick it on the wall? And what if people don't have a pen? Should I keep a pot of pens there? And then, you know, then what next? And I was asking all these really micro questions. And something literally clicked and I was like, Nafisa, you cannot be serious. Like, your confidence cannot be in this place where you do not think you can get a brown piece of paper, stick it on the wall. And you know, you're laughing, but I literally was there like in a dilemma of how this project was going to work, right? And something just clicked that day. And a few months after, I left my job and started Amali. And what clicked for me was I know this is going to sound so cringe and like a movie scene, and it felt like it, but I literally just started saying a speech, and the speech I was saying was me accepting an award in 5 years' time for the Brown Paper Project, and how it had like gone amazing and it gone global, and like 10,000 universities had implemented it and things like that. And in that moment, it felt so real that I could do it, and I could not only do it, but I could like go global with it, that I was like, oh, like, okay, I can definitely do it. I've just got to do it now. And something really clicked for me on that day, and for something that for years just wasn't clicking. For years I always had 10 reasons why I couldn't do something, and something clicked. And it's kind of when I realised I just don't have to wait for the green light from anyone. Like, I can go and get a piece of brown paper, stick it out wherever I want and do whatever I want with it. And for me, I still use that today. Like, if I'm trying to achieve something and I'm like, there's no chance that I could do that, or if I see something and I'm like, I'd love to be here in 5 years' time. And it's almost like a game of like, I set myself really ridiculous ambitions. Like, you know, I always say, oh, you know, in 5 years' time, it'd be amazing if Amalia had a fund which then funded people to start their own businesses and their own projects. And I've written a speech for that. And I've written a speech for how many businesses we funded and what that looks like globally and things like that. And I think a lot of it is just making it as real as possible with that, and then just realising it is just a series of loads of small steps. They don't go in a straight line. They go all over the place, but you just got to keep moving forward.
So we're all writing our speeches this weekend.
Do you think body positivity and self-love is a rebellious act, Natalie?
Yeah, absolutely. From all the messages that we're getting constantly, we are told to hate ourselves. We're given a cream, a device to take away our cellulite, we're, you know, which is a normal part of our bodies. Like, when did cellulite become a flaw? It's like babies have it. So if they can have it and we think it's lovely on them, why can't we have it? Yeah. We're giving a cream for everything. So it's a marketing campaign. Yeah. If they want, by them wanting us to hate ourselves, we then spend money to do things to make ourselves look or feel better. And so it's a never-ending cycle. So yeah, it is definitely a rebellious act.
It's a radical act to want to look like, to be happy looking like yourself. Like, I remember when Cosmopolitan put Tess Holliday on the cover last year, there was this kind of whole like uproar, and people like Piers Morgan and you know, like, oh, this is encouraging obesity. And I don't know why I got into an argument on Twitter with someone about this, and they said I would be as upset if my daughter wanted to look like Tess Holliday as if she wanted to look like Kate Moss, for example, or Bella Hadid. And I was like, the whole point of putting Tess Holliday on the cover of your magazine is so that your daughter, guess what, doesn't want to look like anyone. Yeah. She just wants to look like herself.
But
we look like, you know, there are different ways to look out there, and the world doesn't want you to look like Kim Kardashian or whatever. Like, it's really hard to to come into existence. Like, I'm not going to give you a biology lesson, but the chances of us existing are like 1 in 3 trillion or something. Like, the parents have to meet, and then if your dad had come like 5 seconds earlier or later, you would be a different person potentially. You know, and like, honestly, and then the women's like our eggs are so, our bodies are amazing because they're like, there's millions of sperm, and they're like, we're not having that shit sperm, so they like, the acids kill it's like alien, it's like the seed of alien in there, And then when they get up, and then and then
Is this what happened here?
Yeah, and then
Right, okay, I've got it now,
when they get up, well, then when they get up to the egg, if they get up to the egg, there's like white blood cells around the egg, like nightclub bouncers. Like, you ain't coming in. It's really hard to get pregnant. I know when I was a teenager, I was like, if I look at a boy, I'm gonna get up the duff. But it's really hard. The chances, and so we're all fucking miracles, and the universe doesn't want you to look like anyone other than you. And I'm so sick of this whole kind of wanting to alter it. It's like, celebrate it.
It's so horrible. I was on holiday with friends in the summer last year, and it was that Mean Girls moment, where they're all in the mirror going, I hate my nose, I hate my lip, and they were doing all that. And I was just stood there, and I just went to them, can you both shut the fuck up? And I went, don't talk about yourself like that. I went, it makes me so upset now, like, because even when I hear myself say it to myself in my head now, like, I walk past the mirror and catch a glimpse of something that I might go, oh no, I don't like the way, like, my nose looks in this, or, oh, I feel a bit bloated today. And it's like, yeah, you're in menopause, mate.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Like, but it upsets me that is our go-to when we see our bodies, and that's why I think it's so amazing. I've got women like this sitting around me, that we're seeing more what women's bodies actually look like, and it's making me feel better every single time and feel more confident in my own skin, because the more we see real human bodies, like before I go on holiday, I'm like, oh, bikini ready. The minute I get on the beach and I see everyone else's bodies, I don't care.
What do we think is going to happen if we don't get bikini ready? Do we think we get on the beach and our friends and our husbands or whatever, or our girlfriends are going to be like, oh my God, I thought you looked completely different. I don't want to be on holiday with you anymore. I'm moving to a different hotel.
But there is actual research behind it that says that if you do see lots of different types of bodies, you feel better about your own body image. So that's why it's really important to show these different types of women and men in the media. We've been so used to seeing one type of body that doesn't improve our self-image of ourselves. So we need to see.
I absolutely agree with you. You think of magazines and newspapers. The woman has always a certain age, certain body shape,
ability, colour.
But even those women who do look like that one woman, they probably still hate themselves as well. Yeah. They don't look enough like that one woman. You know what I mean? It's endless, isn't it?
I just hate the fact that we feel that we're not enough, or we're not beautiful enough because we don't look like honestly, don't get me started on Kardashian culture. Like, I do not want to look like a Kardashian. I do not want these big pumped up lips and this fake, just this sexualised face and stuff. I don't care. I want to look lined. I want to look lived in. Because you know what? I've had a bloody hard couple of years. I've laughed a lot. I've probably smoked too much and drank too much. I want to look like I've lived in. Do you know what I mean?
And how impactful do you think social media is at getting the message out?
So again, something that I was thinking today about International Women's Day is I think it's actually a huge privilege that we can even celebrate it.
Yeah.
And for me, a lot of International Women's Day is celebrating the people who don't even know International Women's Day exists, and also doing the work and putting in the work between now and next International Women's Day so more people can celebrate it. Because, I'm part of a mum's group, because I'm not a mum, but I go to Taekwondo and they all bring their kids to Taekwondo. And someone messaged the group today and she was like, oh, what's International Women's Day? And, for us, it's like, what do you mean, what International Women's Day? But we are in a bubble of sorts, right? And part of that bubble flips with some privileges as well, of just being in certain circles and certain industries and things like that. And I think social media has done an incredible job in rallying so many movements that we've seen over the last few years, and bringing in more people into movements like this and mobilising us as communities. And I think for us, it's just really important that we make sure that everything that's happening online, even just for today, also is being reflected in our offline spaces, even if that's in our immediate homes. It doesn't have to be all around the world.
What advice? Oh, sorry. What advice would you give your teenage selves, Bryony?
Oh, well, I've just written an entire book about it. all the things I wish someone had told me at 12 that I'm only finding out now at 38. It's out on May the 2nd. It's called You Got This. The one piece of advice I would say to my teenage self is stop trying to be someone else, because like trying to be someone else, like, you know that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? I could give you like a zillion answers, but at the heart of it all is I don't want to be me, you know. And I nearly killed myself trying not to be myself, you know. I was like drink, drug, all of that, you know, all of that stuff, and in the end being me was the thing that I ended up being the most successful at. Who knew? Like Prince Harry did the interview, I still go, what? Did that interview with me because I had been honest about my mental health, and you know, and so you know, that's what I would say. So it was like stop fighting against you and just be you.
Yeah. Well, I just think I wish I could tell everyone to stop being so bloody horrible to yourself in your head. Like, stop berating yourself, stop telling yourself you can't do things, stop doubting yourself, and just live, mate. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I spent so much of my 20s just self-doubting, not really liking who I was so unsure, insecure. Now I don't give a monkeys. And I just wish I could have transferred that back a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's better to have it now, though, to never have had it.
I think, well, one of the first thing is don't touch your eyebrows. Like, I've shaved and imacked and done everything to my eyebrows, and now they're all patchy and I have to fill them in every day, so that's really fucking annoying.
Same thing happened to me. I plucked when I was 18. Eyebrows gone.
And very similar to these ladies, you know, stop hating on yourself, because no one else gives a shit about what you look like. They're all looking at themselves. Yeah. So let's just enjoy it and enjoy your own body. I would love to say to my younger self, you know, stop focusing on a man enjoying your body and enjoy your own body first for yourself. And stop, looking at men and how they look at you, and that just seems to be your whole world. You see things how men see you rather than how you see yourself, and that's, you know.
Yeah.
And well, I'd say something really similar. Believe in yourself and go for what you want. Simple as that.
For me, I think it would be that there literally is no blueprint for life. You know, I think when we're younger, we're so pressured into like, what do you want to do? And then what next? And then what about after college? And then if you do a degree, what next? And, you know, what's your next career move and things like that? And, you know, when I look at my own journey, and I'm still quite young, I did a science degree when I first started. And then, you know, I got into social enterprise, and it goes like that. And I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have this defined route in our heads, because everyone's always asking us what our route is as well. And my advice would just be, like, your life can go in so many different directions, in so many different places, and places you couldn't even imagine when you're younger, or even now. And just keep that open mind. Just always think about you know, you can literally do anything, and that's only something I've really realised in like the last 3 years, that I literally can do anything. It might take a bit longer, but you know, you can get there.
I feel like there should be, you know, like Jamie Oliver went into schools to do the school dinner campaign.
Yeah.
I really believe that there should be something that is like a careers advisor campaign, because I'm from a really small town up north and went to a normal school, and like your options in life were, you could be a nurse, or if you like cars, you could be a mechanic, or if you like makeup, you could be a beautician. Like, nobody ever said, oh, if you like makeup, you could do props and do costumes or makeup.
My job never existed when I was at school.
Well,
so that's another, you know, you do have to be very
It
open-minded.
didn't even exist when I was at uni. I remember Facebook coming out.
No, but it's not even that. It's like just it's just not saying that there's only 4 routes for you, and it's allowing people to kind of express themselves. And it's hard because we live in London, and like you say, we live in a bubble. But I think that if we have kind of like, I don't know, interesting panels of careers advisors, just because, you know, not all of our parents had all these exciting jobs that they could tell us about.
Yeah, but also as well, like, I don't know about most of the people in this room, but I messed up most of my 20s and my jobs and stuff. Like you're figuring yourself out so young. Like, how do you know at 16 years old what you want to do for the rest of your life?
Oh, you don't.
Like I feel like as you get older, you literally gravitate to the things that are most naturally authentic for you to do. And there's so much pressure put on young adults to have it all figured out so young. Like, it's great to see people like Slumflower, Chadira, everyone doing that, but she's like established and she's amazing, but she's so honest about her evolution as a human. She's like, I'm constantly changing. I change my mind and my opinion every week, and that's allowed.
But I think we do put like so much pressure on exams for young people when you've got to sit like SATs and A-levels, and I don't think an exam is a fair assessment of somebody's ability at all. And someone who is severely dyslexic, I mean, I've literally had to write a few people's names down as you won't even want to see what's going on here. But you know, I really struggled at school, and I was always told by my teachers, like, oh, you won't be able to do that, or you probably can't do that. And I mean, I studied bloody events management at university for 4 years at Polytechnic. My dad was like, you spent 4 years planning a party, love. Very true, and I'm going to be paying that off for the rest of my life as well. But you know, I think that it's just like noticing that we're all different and we've got different paths.
And it's not also like how well you're doing in your GCSEs, your A-levels.
No.
It's not a reflection of how you are as a person.
Anyway, you don't want to peak at high school, do you?
No, this is the thing. I really believe this. All the people that were like, we always talk about either the failures at school or the really big successes, but what we don't talk about are the very mediocre people like me who just got solid B's and C's.
Yeah, that's me too.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, fuck you. You know, like.
Well, I was a failure, and I think I'm doing all right.
You know, like there's like stuff on the thing, like failure. We now accept that failure is part of success. It's not like.
Oh, she's stepping it back. Go on.
What I mean is like it doesn't like, and I'll like come back to me in 10 years' time and ask me if I'm still like saying this when my daughter's about to sit her GCSEs. But I'm like, I remember thinking, oh my God, my life is going to end if I don't do well, and it didn't.
Well, as a child, I was partially deaf, but I wasn't diagnosed, and the teacher said I was stupid. And they said that to my dad as well. My dad went, no, you're not stupid. You're just dreamy. And I was dyslexic. So I had quite a hard time at school. And I didn't get good O-levels and things. But in those days, you could still go to art college with very few O-levels.
Now you're teaching people like a sheep.
Exactly. So you never know your journey.
No.
John Major, I know he's not like a feminist.
I'm like the last person I ever felt you would say.
I was so pleased. John Major, who was Prime Minister of this country for a long time, and is actually a very sensible voice on Brexit now. He's a Remainer. He got 3 O-levels.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But, you know...
You like changing the subject.
but you know, if you think about... The people that are going into politics normally went to boarding school, and the population that went to boarding school in this whole country is 9%. So we've got 9% speaking for the rest of us, and I don't think that's right at all. Which is amazing. Why? Who was that? Who's the girl? My mind has just gone from stylist to upskirting.
Oh, Gina Martin.
Gina.
I love
That
Gina.
is why we need people like Gina, you know, and we need to be empowering like young women and saying, yes, okay, normally politics is full of really rich men in red trousers that went to boarding school, but it doesn't have to be, and we can change that.
Jess Phillips, who's amazing, she's a Labour MP for Birmingham and Yardley.
I've met her.
She's amazing, but she said, she did this great speech in the Commons where she said, I thought I'd met posh people before I got into politics. And she said, but I'd only met people that ate olives. That was what she thought was posh. And then she was like, it is complete. It's like that. We think we live in a bubble. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
They live in like a bubble within the bubble within a bubble.
They're just eating vol au vents left, right, and centre.
Yeah, like they probably only have like they probably go to the markets that sell the olives for like £40 for a kilo. I'll just go to Co-op, get a little dish. That's the kind of olives they're eating.
Posh ones. You're all really amazing at empowering other people, What advice could you give us all that can help empower ourselves?
I think I know for me and my insecurities, for me to empower myself, I'm stubborn, and when I say something nasty to myself, I literally do the opposite of. So if I look in the mirror and I'm thinking, oh, I feel a bit little today, I'll put on my tightest dress. If I'm doubting whether I am capable of like going for something with Girl vs Cancer, or like speaking to a designer I want to work with, or like speaking to people I want in the shoot, I'm like, just send an email. Like I literally, when those little negative thoughts come in, it's like challenging yourself to do more, because it's like you said, like about the tiny little steps that takes to get to where you want to go. It's literally just constantly challenging that negative thought in your head, because then eventually it will start to, that will be your first go-to rather than the negative. Yeah. That's what I feel empowers me, like, because then I'm like, oh, it doesn't have to be this way. I'm not a victim of my negative thought. I'm going to use it as a tailwind to do more.
Yeah. That's exactly what I do.
Do you?
You know, when I was asked to go on the sewing bee, I thought, oh no. And then I thought, why am I saying that to myself? It's because I'm scared. If I'm scared, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that really helped me in terms of body image was to throw away the scales. I think that's really important. Yeah. I think my value, you know, I used to weigh myself every single day, and it used to really set me up for the day. Either I was in a bad mood or a good mood, depending on the number of the scales. And, you know, my value isn't in a number. Yeah. So that really helped me. Other things that you've said, stop talking about yourself in a derogatory way. Try and do that, especially in front of children. It's really important. We don't know how much that they're listening. Their little ears are picking up every single little detail, and you don't even realise it. So I stopped talking about myself, you know, out loud derogatorily. Is that a word? I'm not sure. And then that, I also then started noticing it when it was happening in my head, so I could stop myself in my tracks as well. Other stuff is, again, challenging yourself. I used to have a really, really bad phobia of public speaking, and I was just shit scared any time anyone asked me to do anything. And so I challenged myself. I set a New Year's resolution, and I said, if anyone asked me to do anything public speaking, then I have to say yes if I can do it. So I did that, and with practice I overcame it. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think
that was such a very British. Well done.
Going off the theme of that voice in your head, for me, you know that moment when someone asks you to submit a bio about yourself, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, my name's Nafisa, and then I don't know where to go from there. One of the things I always say, okay, if you were your friend, what would you say? And then you're like, oh, she's amazing, and da-da-da-da. And even for like opportunities and things, and when you're considering or weighing things up, I always just think, if this was my friend, I would definitely say go for it. And using that benchmark, and then eventually you'll be your own friend, still getting there. But, you know, it's a good sort of benchmark to see, am I saying this out of love for myself or loathe, or what is it? So if you frame it as your friend, you'll just be a lot kinder.
Yeah, yeah. Bryony?
I would say fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
I think, like, I always get a lot of people saying things like, oh, I wish I had your confidence. And I'm like, I don't have confidence. You know, confidence is a bit of a trick, right? Isn't it? But I have all the same thoughts as everyone else. You know, I was bulimic. I'm in recovery. So I know all of those thoughts, but I don't, like, instead of, like, the thoughts used to come into my head and I used to, like, leap on them and, like, perform, like mouth to mouth on them to give them more life and be like, come on, like, feed up the thoughts and be, like, clinging to them. And now I just kind of go, oh, that's nice. Thanks for telling me that you feel like a piece of shit today. And I don't let it, you know, I don't have time. I'm not going to waste any more energy hating on myself, because I will not pass that shit on to my daughter. And it's you know, it's such a tremendous waste of our energy. And to think of the things that we could do if we weren't sort of conditioned to hate on ourselves is, you know. So just think about that. Think about that. When you feel like you can't empower, just go, no, it's a little act of feminism. It's a little act of fighting against hate. When you do something that you think you can't do, you're not just empowering yourself, you're empowering all the women around you.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I think that was a good note to finish on, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I think it was.
Yes, it was really good.
Oh, it was brilliant. Yes, it was.
I just say, we are all so good.
We are.
Aren't we all great? Everyone in this room, aren't we great? After 3, I want everyone to say, I am great. 1, 2, 3.
I am great. Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday evening. Do stay in Albright. We've got some drinks happening. We want everyone to enjoy themselves. And a massive round of applause for our amazing yeah. And happy International Women's Day. We've only got a few more hours left. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Law.